morning. Welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Wednesday, August 22nd, 2012. According to Standard & Poor's now, private crop insurers, groups led by Wells Fargo and ACE, may face losses that exceed $5 billion this year if this year's United States drought is worse than the one in 1998. It's no secret that the hot, dry weather has damaged crops, corn and soybeans and wheat, for example. The United States subsidizes the premiums paid by farmers for crop insurance, and they also provide backstop facilities for insurers who underwrite the risk. Insurers can also purchase private reinsurance. According to Standard & Poor's, insurers with higher concentrations of coverage in the most affected states, in the Midwest in particular, will see a larger share of losses. They also note that the losses among the crop insurers will vary depending upon how much government and private reinsurance they use. For example, Wells Fargo has reinsurance with other companies that will absorb much of the loss. ACE's position is not known as to whether or not they use government insurance or private reinsurance, although they have reserved a deduction of 19 cents a share off its full year's earnings forecast after their last quarter. Tropical storm Isaac continues to rumble around now west toward the Caribbean on a track that could possibly take it toward Florida and possibly toward the west coast of Florida, where the Republican convention is going to be. According to the National Hurricane Center, Isaac now has top sustained winds of about 40 miles per hour. It's expected to strengthen. It's about 400 miles east of Guadeloupe. It's pretty far out. It's heading west at about 18 miles per hour. Tropical storm warnings were issued today for Puerto Rico and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. It's too soon to gauge the storm's exact path, although some computer models forecast Isaac to head toward Cuba and then Florida and then come into the Caribbean Sea. Demands for higher wages in South Africa have now spread to at least 2 other platinum mines, leading to fears of instability in the country's mines that provide 75% of the world's platinum supply. According to a South African mining website, the development calls itself a possibly ominous move. A 12-day strike at the Lonmin mine ended up with police killing 34 striking miners. A spokesperson for the Royal Bafokeng Company said that at least 400 miners are protesting outside of a mine at Rasamone in South Africa. Here's an interesting story. If you're flying an Airbus today, pay attention. In January 2008, at a Newark airport, a United flight, an Airbus 320 with 107 people on board, the pilots were startled to find screens that display crucial navigation information blank. The radios were dead. There was no way to communicate with the towers. Fortunately, it was a clear day, and the plane was able to circle back around and land, avoiding alarms that could have been sounded by the tower when they were unable to contact the plane, fearing another terrorist incident. Apparently, the January 2008 emergency was far from the first such multiple electric failure in the Airbus A320 family. More than 50 episodes have occurred in that series, and it could be another 2 years before the last of the thousands of narrow-body twin-engine jets in use in the U.S. and overseas are fixed. The Federal Aviation Administration issued an order in 2010 giving American Airlines 4 years to make the fixes. The fixes, you might be interested in knowing, require 46 hours to make, and they only cost $6,000 a plane. What's required is an automatic diversion switch, so that the switchover, in case a power failure occurs on the primary system supplying electricity to the instruments fails, it automatically switches to a backup. Unbelievable. In the Pacific, 14 storms seems not to be enough now. It seems as if 2 big storms are beginning to foment out in the eastern Pacific. The first is Typhoon Tembin. It just in 2 days grew from a mere tropical depression into a typhoon with winds greater than 120 miles per hour. It's heading toward Luzon in the northern Philippines, and then it's going to hit Taiwan and then ultimately China. It's a very slow-moving storm and a giant rain dumper. Right behind Tembin is Tropical Storm Bolavan. Right now it's a very small storm, but it's expected to strengthen into a typhoon and follow much the same path. Here's a news flash from the Financial Services Authority in England. Hedge funds pose little risk to the banking and wider financial system. The results of the FSA's April survey of funds controlling assets worth about $400 billion US found they only pose limited risk to the financial stability of the industry. They say that funds continue to, quote, report a strong ability to manage the liquidity of their assets and liabilities. Then, here's the $64,000 point, the FSA warned that its survey results were based on self-assessments by individual managers, and that it was difficult for regulators to gauge exactly how funds would be affected in the event of a new market downturn. Translation, don't believe it. The train wreck reported yesterday in Maryland that ended up with 2 people killed when the CSX freight train derailed has some other far-reaching implications. It affected the internet connection to Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, also causing a 1-day delay in pretrial hearings for mastermind of the 2011 terrorist attacks, or the 2001 terrorist attacks, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. According to the government, the train derailment in Ellicott City, Maryland, that killed 2 young women knocked out fiber optic lines that are part of the wire and satellite network providing communications to the remote U.S. Navy base in eastern Cuba, Guantanamo Bay. That left defense lawyers and prosecutors at the base unable to access email and electronic legal files. Drastically interrupted preparations for the hearings, and the Army judge agreed to postpone the hearings until Thursday. Satellite relay phone and internet signals to and from the base link with communications networks in Maryland, and the Maryland link is expected to be fully restored by tonight. Amazing. I guess that's why those signs are in your backyard. Call this number before you dig. Things are everywhere. That's the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.